That year, the young lady and I stumbled upon a man who had been struck by a seductive poison. To protect her own purity, she ruthlessly shoved me toward him as a living antidote. After returning to the manor, my belly grew day by day. I endured every scornful stare and every whisper of shame, yet the young lady never once stepped forward to defend me. 9 months later, the crown prince traveled south in search of the woman who had once saved his life. She ordered her people to cut open my stomach, stole the child from my body, and carried him away to impersonate that role. In my dying breath, I tried everything to tell the crown prince the truth. All I received was a cold glance. He declared, "What you need is a crown princess, not some lowly maid." I died with hatred burning in my chest. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the moment when I was 5 months pregnant. At that exact time, the crown prince's sworn enemy, the regent king, was traveling south. I held my swollen belly, went to find him, lifted my chin, and asked, "The throne, do you want it?" When I was 5 months along, Xianxia summoned me to the main hall. I tried my best to hide my rounded belly. Around me, the servants whispered non-stop. "Look, that's Yunning. 5 months ago she went out with the young lady, but on the way she snuck off to meet a man and ended up pregnant. Shameless. Luckily our young lady is kind. Otherwise she'd have been beaten to death already." I closed my eyes briefly, suppressing a sigh. That day, the young lady and I had gone out together. She insisted on picking flowers near the cliff. Who would have thought she'd slip and fall? In that split second, she dragged me down with her and used my body as a cushion. She was perfectly unharmed, while I was battered and bruised. Before anyone could arrive, disaster struck anyway. We encountered a striking man who was gravely wounded and poisoned by a seductive toxin. His breathing was unstable, and his eyes burned red like a starving wolf. I pulled out my hairpin and told the young lady we needed to silence him before things worsened. Instead, she screamed and shoved me straight toward him. I fought with everything I had, crying for help. She shut her eyes tightly and abandoned me. Before losing consciousness, I heard the man's low voice echo behind me. "I will come back for her." Half an hour later, I woke in a daze, my clothes disheveled, my body limp on the ground. Servants stood in a circle around me, their gazes full of disgust. The young lady rushed into her father's arms, crying prettily. "Father, when I found Yunning, she was lying there with a man." I stared at her in horror. We had grown up together, yet I never knew she possessed such talent for twisting truth into lies. The master of the house turned purple with rage, ready to beat me to death on the spot. But in the next breath, the young lady spoke gently. "It must have been a moment of weakness. Please forgive her just this once, father." And so I survived, only to be banished to the woodshed as a drudge. 5 months later, when I could no longer stop vomiting and my belly began to show, she dismissed all the servants. She looked at me with feigned pity. "Yunning, why were you so unlucky? How could you get pregnant?" I suddenly lifted my head and stared straight into her eyes. Xianxia let out a soft laugh. "You can't blame me for accusing you back then. If others knew we encountered a dangerous man, my reputation would be ruined. I had to sacrifice your purity to protect my own. But I left you your life. You should be grateful." I breathed in slowly. In my previous life, not until my final moments did I understand why Xianxia had spared me. She could easily have killed me to silence the truth, no witnesses, no evidence. Yet she deliberately kept me alive because she knew the man from that night was the crown prince. If she killed me and he remembered my face, he might come to claim me from her. 10 months later, he did come. Xianxia probed him repeatedly and eventually realized that he didn't remember the appearance of the woman who saved him. All he recalled was a birthmark on her shoulder. So she painted a fake birthmark on herself, ordered my stomach cut open, stole my child, and claimed the credit. The next day, the story of Xianxia becoming crown princess spread across the capital. She and the crown prince became a beautiful tale in everyone's eyes. As for me, I was wrapped in a torn mat and thrown into a wastelanding unmarked graves. If not for a kind passerby, I would never have lasted long enough to drag my dying body into the street and stop the crown prince's carriage. In the middle of the crowd, I exposed the birthmark on my shoulder for him to see. The crown prince immediately ordered his guards to surround me and interrogate me carefully. Once he confirmed no one else knew the truth, he commanded his men to stab a blade straight through my body. What you need is a crown princess, not a servant girl. I will never forget the wounds those two inflicted on me. Xianxia stared at my belly, already calculating how she would use my child to impersonate the savior. Her mouth, however, spoke gentle words. Yunning, it's still alive. Keep it. After you carry it for 10 months and give birth, I'll give you silver and set you free. In my previous life, she said the exact same thing. And I believed her. I carried the child with trembling caution, clinging to the hope of freedom. And what did I receive in the end? They cut me open and stole my child. The physician barely had time to sew a few rough stitches before Xianxia waved her hand in disgust and ordered them to throw me out of the city. She didn't leave me a single path to live. Fortunately, the heavens gave me a chance to start over. At this moment, the crown prince's mortal enemy, the regent king, was traveling south. The old emperor was aging. The regent king was his youngest brother, born of the same mother, and out the crown prince's age. The emperor adored him, far more than his own son. Rumor even said he once intended to pass the throne to the regent king. If anyone in this world could contend with the crown prince, it was him. And the child in my womb would become my greatest bargaining chip. I bowed obediently before Xianxia. Thank you, my lady, for your mercy. I will protect this child and raise it well. She showed a satisfied smile. Good. Know your place. You may leave. I lifted my head again. The woodshed is dusty and dirty. It's not good for the pregnancy. If my lady grants mercy, may I be assigned to purchasing work instead? A flash of contempt and mockery passed through Xianxia's eyes. Purchasing was a lucrative position. To her, my request was nothing more than greed. But since I had been submissive earlier, she generously agreed. Fine. Go. She didn't know the only reason I wanted the purchasing job was to leave the manor and meet the regent king. I returned to the woodshed to pack. Several servant women stood outside the window, deliberately raising their voices. Look at her, so shameless. Pregnant with a bastard and still begging the mistress for favors. Dogs that bite don't bark, truly. I walked silently to the window and suddenly shoved it open. The wooden frame slammed into them, making them yelp. They pointed at me, shouting. Are you insane? We talk among ourselves, what does it have to do with you? I smirked. I opened my own window. Is that a crime? If you stand outside my window gossiping, you won't have the right to complain even if it kills you. Their eyes widened. They couldn't believe I, the girl who once cowered before everyone, was daring to talk back. In my past life, all I wanted was peace. When they bullied me, I retreated. They took advantage of it, treating me like soft clay, going further and further. The night Xianxia dragged me away, these women were the first to pin me down. If Xianxia and the crown prince were the masterminds, then these people were accomplices. Everyone who harmed me in my past life, I would not forgive a single one. I stared at them, then suddenly laughed. They shivered. What are you laughing at? I asked softly. Are you ashamed of me? Do you think I'm unworthy of staying in Jiang Manor? They sneered. Good that you know. If we were you, we'd have found a tree and hung ourselves already. I nodded. All right. Then I'll go tell the young lady. I took a step forward. They panicked instantly and blocked my path. You dare report us? I smiled. She told me to rest and protect the child. You are kicking me out. I simply need to ask her whose orders I should follow. Nonsense. The young lady would never care about your bastard. Smack. Before she finished, my hand struck across her face. She froze in shock. I took the chance to swing again, slapping 2 other servant women, left and right. Go on. Try calling it a bastard again. They snapped out of it, shrieking, ready to claw at me. I raised my sore arms and pointed at my belly. Come on, then. 1 corpse, 2 lives. When the young lady hears of it, you all can accompany me to the underworld. They hesitated immediately. One of the older servant women still refused to back down and lifted her hand to strike me. Just then, a loud voice came from the doorway. Stop. Everyone turned their heads. It was Mama Chen, the young lady's trusted nurse. A cold laugh rose in my chest. She finally showed herself. In my previous life, it wasn't that I never considered running away. I had served Jiangwan since childhood. She smeared my reputation to protect her own, locked me in the woodshed, and never checked on me again. I was a servant, but still a human being. During the first months of confinement, I constantly thought of escaping. But every time I made the slightest move, someone immediately reported it to the steward. No matter how careful I was always discovered. A beating would follow. Only later did I realize someone was secretly watching me. The moment I even thought of escape, news would be sent up the chain. That was why I intentionally provoked these women, forcing them to lay hands on me. I needed the hidden watcher to reveal themselves. Since Jiangwan wanted my child, she would never allow anyone to harm my belly. This move worked flawlessly. And here she was. Mama Chen had always appeared gentle and kind, smiling with benevolent warmth. Never in my dreams did I expect her to be the one shadowing me. The moment the others saw her, their expressions changed. Everyone in the manor knew her status. If she stepped in, it could only mean she carried the young lady's orders. Exactly as I had planned. After today, none of them would dare bully me lightly again. Mama Chen glared at the women coldly. Each of you, 20 strokes. I cut in smoothly. Mama Chen, 20 strokes won't discipline them. It's one thing for them to disrespect me, but this is a slap in the young lady's face. If I can't punish them properly on her behalf, I won't be able to sleep at night. Mama Chen's lips twitched. Then what do you suggest? I looked at the trembling group and smiled softly. 80 strokes each. 80 strokes, enough to leave even a grown man half dead. Mama Chen gave me a rare complicated look. But the orders came from Jiangwan, and she didn't want these troublemakers stirring up issues for me later. So she nodded. The watching servants sucked in a collective breath. No one expected the young lady to truly back me. Mama Chen escorted me herself to a smaller courtyard. Before leaving, she warned. This is the young lady's will. Do not use this as an excuse to act wildly. I smiled with narrowed eyes. How could you call it acting wildly? I'm simply helping the young lady establish authority. She frowned, unable to refute. In the days that followed, I handled purchasing outside the manor. Mama Chen never appeared again, but I could feel her presence every time I stepped beyond the gates, watching from a distance. I behaved with perfect obedience. Bought what I needed. Returned immediately. Never lingered. After a few days of this pattern, I began slowing down. First, to buy a candied hawthorn skewer. Later, to take a short walk down another street. Gradually, I extended my time outside. The information I gleaned increased as well. In my memories, this was exactly the period when the Regent King traveled south. I kept my ears open. Half a month later, I finally heard the news. The Regent King was arriving. I asked for the exact date and time. The night before, I rehearsed my words over and over. Even with a second chance at life, my nerves kept me awake until dawn. The next morning, I went to greet the young lady. Jiang Wan was delighted to see my obedient demeanor. From my sleeve, I took out a hairpin and shyly offered it to her. "My lady, this is a pin I bought with my saved wages, as a gift for you." Disdain flashed across her eyes, though she kept her polite smile and accepted it stiffly. "You are thoughtful. Just focus on your pregnancy, that alone is the greatest repayment to me." I bowed and retreated. Then left the manor. As usual, I headed to the market, bought vegetables, and walked forward. 1 street. 2 streets. When I reached the 3rd street, I finally saw it. The ceremonial procession of the Regent King. At that moment, in the shadows, Mama Chen also sensed something was wrong. "Yun Ning." She shouted my name and lunged toward me. I shoved through the crowd, holding my belly, biting down hard, and threw myself directly into the Regent King's path. Just as Mama Chen was about to break through, a voice sounded above me. "Girl, what are you doing?" I turned my head. Mama Chen froze on the spot, unable to advance. This was the Regent King's procession. She valued her life too much to barge in. I drew a slow breath, lifted my gaze toward the man atop the horse. Rumors said the Regent King was ruthless. I didn't know if he would even let me speak. The words I had prepared for days vanished the moment I saw his face. Because I recognized him. On a snowy night in the 17th year of Qingzhou in my past life, I had been dragged into the ancestral hall. Servant women pinned me down, and the physician used a rusted pair of shears to cut open my belly. My screams echoed through the Jiang estate. Jiang Wan, dressed in full makeup, urged impatiently from the side. "Hurry. I still need to meet the crown prince." Under her urging, the physician hastily stitched a few crude threads across my abdomen, then declared I would not live through the night. And so I was wrapped in a torn mat and thrown into the burial grounds outside the city. I lay among rotting corpses, watching night fall, quietly waiting for death. A beggar, thin, gentle-eyed, rescued me. He carried me to a ruined shrine, broke apart the last steamed bun he had and fed it to me piece by piece, then went to the pharmacy to beg, knocking his head against the floor for a single dose of medicine. No one in this world had ever treated me with such kindness. But fever raged through me. I didn't have much time left. Hearing that the crown prince would soon return to the capital, I wanted to do one last thing. I wanted to tell him the truth. He listened to my wish, silent for a long time. "He will not believe you." "I know," I whispered. "But he must at least know, the child is mine, not Jiang Wan's. Even if I die, I cannot let her live peacefully." Under my pleading, he carried me on his back and chased after the crown prince's carriage. He walked for hours, through several watch periods, until he finally found the chance to rush out from the trees and block the way. Just as expected, all I received was a sword through my heart. And he was forced to drink poison. With the last of his strength, he brought me to a grave he had dug beforehand. He lay down with me inside the coffin. My wound burned so fiercely I couldn't breathe. He stuffed the corner of his robe into my hand. I gripped it tightly and asked with the last of my breath, "Why are you so good to me?" He smiled faintly. "Live under one quilt, die in one grave." I didn't fully understand, but I carved the words into my soul. In those final moments, I etched his face deeply in my memory. And the Regent King standing before me now, looked exactly like the beggar in my past life. "Girl, are you all right?" His voice drew me back. Only then did I realize my surroundings. My eyes trembled, tears falling freely. "My lord, please save me." He was nothing like the storm-wrapped, merciless figure described in rumors. He even dismounted and came toward me, stopping the guards who tried to drive me away. "You carry grievances." My lips moved soundlessly. He leaned closer. Only then did I speak at normal volume. "I am carrying the crown prince's child." He stiffened, eyebrows drawing together. I continued calmly. I am not mad, nor am I lying. If you wish to use this to bring him down, then please, let me explain. He stared at me for a long while, then finally ordered his men to bring me to an inn. The moment we entered the room, I dropped to my knees before him and recounted every detail of what happened 5 months ago. The Regent King looked at me deeply. You're young, yet extraordinarily patient. After everything you endured, surviving until now is no small feat. He paused. If so, why didn't you wait for the Crown Prince to come for you? Because the young lady would never let me near him. She wants to steal my identity, and my child, to become Crown Princess. And the Crown Prince would never take a maid as his legitimate wife. Understanding flickered in his eyes. So you want to be Crown Princess? I shook my head, expression solemn. No. I just want to live. From beginning to end, all I wanted was to survive. That was why I behaved, why I served quietly, why I never dreamed of climbing higher. That was why I didn't kill myself after the humiliation. Why I forced myself to believe her empty promise of freedom. I wasn't cowardly. But when there is no path left, what choice is there besides bowing the head? So I came to you, not just to help you, but to save myself. The Regent King narrowed his eyes. You're so certain I can use this child to topple him? I met his gaze steadily. No. My child can do nothing. It's merely the knock on the door that lets me speak to you. But there is something else, something that can bring down the Crown Prince, and you as well. His expression shifted sharply. What do you know? Seeing his reaction, I already had my answer. In my past life, the Regent King collapsed around this time. The beggar who cared for me had told me many things about the capital. He said the Regent King had lost something extremely important, which triggered the court's attacks and ultimately destroyed him. The Regent King and the Crown Prince were mortal enemies. If anyone had reason to sabotage him, it would be the Crown Prince alone. And months later, that emotionless man was suddenly determined to search for a life-saving benefactor whose face he didn't even remember. Suspicious, no matter how one looked at it. Before leaving years ago, the Crown Prince told me he would come back for me. I realized then, he wasn't looking for me. He was looking for something he left behind on my body. I suspected that object was now in Xianxua's hands. The Regent King listened to my deduction, then let out a low laugh, a glint of admiration in his eyes. Your guess is right. 5 months ago, the Emperor sent the Crown Prince and me south for training. But the Crown Prince took the chance to poison me. While I was weakened, he stole the tiger tally the Emperor entrusted to me. Losing the tiger tally, the Crown Prince reported it to the Emperor. The Emperor, loving his younger brother, concealed the scandal and gave the Regent King half a year to retrieve it. But despite sending hundreds of men to search the surrounding regions, nothing was found. As a last resort, the Regent King personally set out to look for it. I had more or less pieced everything together. Back then, when the Crown Prince stole the Regent King's tiger tally, he was hunted relentlessly by the Regent King's men. In his escape, he was accidentally struck by a seductive poison. He used me to purge the toxin, then left the tiger tally on my body. That way, even if they caught him, they wouldn't find the evidence. The Crown Prince said he would return for me one day. In truth, he meant he would return for the tiger tally. But he didn't expect me to faint the moment he left. Xianxua took the opportunity to pick up the tally. She was an experienced woman, even if she couldn't recognize it, her father, an official of 5th rank, certainly would. So in my past life, Xianxua became Crown Princess not just because of a child or a false tale of saving a life. More importantly, because of the tiger tally. With her burning ambition, she likely used the tally to threaten the Crown Prince and force her way into the position. But I refused to believe a man as calculating as the Crown Prince would accept such blackmail willingly. As for how long Xianxuan managed to sit on that seat, in my past life, I had no way of knowing. The Regent King and I analyzed everything carefully. Out of 10 parts, 9 suggested the tally was with Jiang Wan. So our plan had to begin with her. The Regent King suddenly asked. In Jiang Manor, were only you and she the ones who met the Crown Prince that day? I nodded. Though Master Jiang was an official, he never had the chance to meet the Crown Prince. The Regent King smiled. Then that makes things simple. He intended to impersonate the Crown Prince from that day and demand the tally back. He looked at me. What do you want? I studied his face for a moment before lowering my gaze. When this is over, I ask for no wealth, no status. I only want you to protect my life. I didn't know whether the beggar from my past life truly was the Regent King before me. I had nowhere to repay that kindness, so I might as well give that debt to the man who shared the same face. Back then, he protected me with his life. This time, I would repay him with the throne. His eyes drifted to my belly. Then, the child. I pressed my lips together. I am too far along to get rid of it. If you do not want it alive, once I give birth, you may dispose of it as you wish. He narrowed his eyes. Even a beast does not devour its own offspring. You can be this ruthless. I let out a cold smile. If I can protect the child, I will. But if I cannot, why should I pretend at noble sacrifice and bury myself along with it? Even if I swear this child will never threaten your throne, would you let such a danger live and allow us to walk free? The Crown Prince's bloodline was a threat. If the Regent King wanted the child dead, what power did I have to stop him? He stared for a long moment, then a hint of admiration appeared in his gaze. You're not wrong. That night, he took me straight to Jiang Manor. Master Jiang hurried in obsequiously, but the moment he saw me, his smile froze. Yunning, why are you here? The Regent King cut him off. Months ago, I passed through here and encountered a woman who saved my life, Yunning. This time, I've come for her indenture contract. Master Jiang nearly spat blood. My lord, this girl is deceitful and stubborn, how can you trust her words? If it were anyone else, fine, but she ran away from my manor just yesterday. And her reputation is infamous, she is a notorious seductress. The Regent King's expression darkened. Are you saying I misjudge people? Cold sweat broke out instantly. I meant no such thing. But my lord has heard only her account. If you make a mistake, the consequences would be grave. Why not tell me how this savior aided you? Perhaps I can help identify her. The Regent King glanced at him, then sighed heavily. It is difficult to speak of. It was not glorious, and besides that, I lost something important. Master Jiang's head snapped up, eyes blazing. My lord, could it be a jade pendant shaped like a tiger? The Regent King narrowed his eyes. Exactly. Master Jiang lit up with joy. What an honor. That jade pendant was picked up by my daughter, it turns out it belonged to you. I shall summon her immediately to greet you. The Regent King raised a hand. No need. I accept the jade, not the person. Even if your daughter were a celestial beauty, I have no desire to see her. Just bring the pendant. If it is indeed mine. A faint smile curled his lips. I will reward you generously. Master Jiang beamed and rushed out. Soon he returned with the object. The pendant presented was indeed the tiger tally. The Regent King closed his fingers around it, and much of the gloom between his brows melted away. My thanks, Master Jiang. Master Jiang bowed repeatedly. It is our honor, mine and my daughter's. The Regent King suddenly looked at me. To express my gratitude, I shall marry Yun Ning. Master Jiang froze. Then, my daughter. What of her? The Regent King said flatly. If she also wishes to marry me, she may follow Yun Ning as a concubine. Master Jiang looked as if lightning had struck him, motionless, stunned. I narrowed my eyes and smiled. Where is my contract of servitude? The once arrogant Master Jiang now trembled as he ordered someone to fetch it. I took the paper and tore it into shreds. Where is the Regent King? Where is he? Jiang Wan barged in despite the servants trying to stop her. She brushed right past my shoulder and the Regent King's. Her face went blank as she stared at us. No, that's not him, she murmured. Master Jiang yanked her down to her knees. Nonsense. This is the Regent King. Jiang Wan's expression was dazed. He's not the man from that year. Only then did Master Jiang finally understand. If the man who held the tiger tally back then wasn't the Regent King, then it could only have been the Crown Prince. Their actions just now, throwing their lot in with the Regent King, were unmistakable. Once the Regent King returned to the capital, the Crown Prince would surely know exactly where his stolen tiger tally came from. And Master Jiang had clearly seen the Regent King's attitude. He had no intention whatsoever of protecting the Jiang family. Especially now, with me standing in the middle as a thorn in their eyes. The Jiang estate was finished. Master Jiang collapsed to the floor in despair. The Jiang family is doomed. The next day, Master Jiang came to see me. He told me all the maidservants and women who had bullied me in the manor had already been beaten to death under his orders. A so-called attempt to avenge me. This man who once lorded over me now wore a humble, pleading smile, begging me to show mercy. I let out a soft laugh and looked him directly in the eyes. I think you know better than I do who my true enemy is. Master Jiang shut his eyes in resignation. If I die, will you spare my daughter? I leaned back and smiled. I don't know. Depends on my mood. Actually, I'm curious, people say the wicked have hearts black as pitch. I wonder, is your heart red or black? One day before the Regent King and I were to return to the capital, I received news of Master Jiang's death. Soon after, a wooden box arrived, containing a heart and liver. When I reached the Jiang estate, Jiang Wan had already lost her mind. She rushed at me the moment she saw me, but the guards sent by the Regent King held her down and dragged her into the ancestral hall. Seeing me appear, Jiang Wan glared with burning hatred. You ruined me. I will never, ever forgive you. I laughed aloud. And did you think I would forgive you? She screamed, nearly incoherent. What did I ever do wrong? It was the servants who bullied you. It was the Crown Prince who destroyed your purity. I never even did anything. If you have the ability, go take revenge on the Crown Prince instead. Inside, I gave a cold, mirthless smile. She hadn't acted yet, only because she never got the chance. Every time I closed my eyes, I could still see the memory of her ordering them to cut open my stomach. Don't worry, I said softly. Everyone who harmed me, none of them will escape. But before that, I have a gift for you. Instantly, Jiang Wan's eyes sharpened with fear. What are you planning? My smile widened. I clapped my hands. A wooden box was brought forward. A gift from your father to me. I thought I should return it to you. The lid opened slowly before her. When Jiang Wan saw the organs inside, her gaze shattered. Her scream tore through the air, piercing enough to shake the heavens. She staggered to her feet, glaring at me with venom. Yun Ning. Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. She hurled herself at me with all her strength. The moment she was about to crash into me, I stepped aside. Behind me was a wall. She tried to stop but it was too late. She reached out to pull me with her. But I slipped away again. Jiang Wan slammed headfirst into the wall and slowly slid to the ground. I looked at her fading breath and said quietly. You already dragged me down once. Did you think you could do it again? Months ago, she had insisted on picking flowers by the cliff. When she fell, she pulled me with her. Used my body as a cushion. Now, she tried to pull me again. But this time, it was impossible. I watched as the last trace of life left her eyes. We had grown up together, once shared the bond of mistress and maid. She used to sneak food and toys to me. Until one day Master Jiang found out. He forbade her from treating me kindly, saying a maid's station was different, and beat me 30 strokes. Jiang Wan looked distressed then. But Master Jiang said, "If the mistress makes a mistake, the maid pays the price." From that moment, Jiang Wan changed. She became exactly like her father. In her eyes, I stopped being human, became an object. A scapegoat she could use whenever it pleased her. I can't say she was wrong. But likewise, I cannot forgive her. I followed the Regent King into the capital. He arranged for me to stay in a quiet residence within his estate. The place was vast, immaculate, with very few servants, much less other women. Only then did I realize just how different he was from the cruel, debauched figure the rumors described. Those rumors seemed deliberately planted by someone. The next day, he entered the palace with the tiger tally. The crown prince's crimes were exposed. In fury, the emperor stripped him of his title and demoted him to a commoner. When the Regent King returned to the estate, he told me everything. I sipped my tea. Why was His Majesty so enraged? The Regent King replied, "My brother values virtue above all." The Crown Prince became heir precisely because he appeared the most virtuous among us. I suddenly understood. No wonder the Emperor favored the Regent King. No wonder the Crown Prince in my past life was desperate to proclaim to the world that he was marrying his life-saving benefactor. He could recover the tiger tally and win the Emperor's favor for his supposed gratitude. I paused, then asked, "Now that he is demoted, what do you plan to do next?" The Regent King spoke in a low, shadowed voice. "However he intended to treat me when I was powerless, that is exactly how I will treat him now." It seemed the former Crown Prince would not escape death. That thought eased my mind. But I glanced at him without revealing my emotion. What would become of me? To my surprise, the Regent King did not kill me. I lived another 4 months. During those 4 months, whenever he wasn't handling state affairs, he would sit with me each day, drinking tea, talking casually. Sometimes, in a daze, I felt as if I were seeing the beggar who once saved me in my past life. Until one day, I gathered my courage and asked his name. He paused. "Xian Wei." "My name is Xian Wei." The moment I heard it, pain tightened around my heart. The beggar had been named Xian Wei as well. I used to wonder why a beggar had such a refined name. If he had been the Regent King all along, it all made sense. I stared at him for a long time, hesitating to speak. But before I could, he suddenly collapsed to the floor, his body curling in on itself. Horrified, I shouted for the guards, fumbling to help him onto the bed. When the Crown Prince stole the tiger tally, he had poisoned him as well. Only now did I learn this poison had no cure. Even the finest physician alive could only prolong his life a little. Every few days, the poison would flare up, agony that tore through his entire body. Until now, he had always locked himself away to endure the pain alone. This time, he misjudged the timing, and the attack struck right before my eyes. Watching the sweat pour from his brow, my heart burned with panic. Desperate, I pushed the corner of my robe into his hand. Just as the beggar had done for me when I had suffered unspeakable pain. When a person grips something tightly, the agony eases, if only slightly. He clutched the fabric hard and lifted his gaze, searching for me. The moment he saw me, he seemed to exhale in relief. Half an hour passed before his body finally relaxed, as though he had walked a full circle around the gates of hell. He whispered, "Thank you." I shook my head. He had taught me this. I was only giving it back to him. Then he suddenly asked, "Next time?" I answered at once. "Next time, you may hold something else." Xianwei froze, then looked away quietly, saying nothing more. 4 months later, the emperor passed away. In my past life, he had still been alive when I died. But this time, he left the world earlier. Perhaps the outrage and exhaustion from deposing the crown prince hastened his end. Now, among all the court, the only one qualified to inherit the throne was the regent king. The ministers urged him to take the crown. But instead, he brought me, heavy with child, into the palace. The moment my baby was born, he was carried straight to Xianwei. Weary yet oddly calm, I watched him, waiting for his decision. He stepped out with the infant, facing the gathered civil and military officials. His voice cut through the hall like a blade. This is the late emperor's grandson. A legitimate heir. I will support him as emperor until the day he comes of age. The court erupted in shock. So did I. But soon the officials, whether former supporters of the crown prince or followers of the regent king, unanimously praised his wisdom. Not long after, he returned with the baby. I looked at him in confusion. He gave a faint smile. The crown prince's bloodline is dangerous. One day, his remaining faction might find the child and raise him to the throne. If I want peace, there are only 2 solutions: kill the child, or make him emperor first. Now that he is emperor, Xianwei continued. The crown prince's faction will protect and nurture him with their lives. And I will personally raise him until he grows strong. I stared at him in astonishment. What if he grows up hating you? Xianwei laughed softly. The motion tugged at an old wound, sending him into a pained cough. Let him hate me. I won't live long anyway. If, later, he asks, just blame everything on me. As long as he never hates you, that is enough. He was so much like the late emperor. Neither cared about who sat on the throne. Only whether the one who sat there had the virtue to bear its weight. The emperor had many children, too many to guide properly. It was his greatest regret in later years. To give birth but not nurture. That was why he failed to leave behind a worthy successor. Now, this child would be raised by me and Xianwei. Even if he did not become the greatest emperor of his age, he would at least grow into a virtuous ruler without stain. I moved into Shokong Palace and became Empress Dowager. Xianwei could have monopolized absolute power. Yet he insisted that I rule behind the veil with him. The ministers whispered, criticized, and speculated endlessly. At that moment, I began to consider stepping down. But Xianwei told me, Yun Ning, you have ability, and you can be ruthless. If I die early and cannot protect this child, you must carry that burden. Those words awakened me. My child was legitimate. But without backing, legitimacy could easily become illegitimacy. If Xianwei fell, a widowed mother and infant emperor would be swallowed whole within days. I had to become strong enough to stand in front of him. If they wanted to say I was a meddling hen, or a woman throwing the dynasty into chaos, let them. Once I held true power, every single one of them would kneel. The child slowly grew. Xianwei personally taught him to read, to reason, to understand people and conduct. We did not hide his origins. One day, he would learn them anyway. Better from us than from malicious tongues eager to twist the truth. At first, he didn't understand. But as he grew older, he slowly pieced everything together. He learned how I had carried him. And he learned what the former crown prince had done to Xianwei. He sat in silence for a long time before finally asking, Mother, do you resent me? I smiled and shook my head. You are his blood, yes, but you are also my child. But I want to ask you, do you resent Xianwei? His expression faltered. Uncle. He had once seen with his own eyes how Xianwei writhed in agony every time the poison attacked. And he had lived with us, experienced every moment the 3 of us shared. He shook his head. Uncle taught me a truth. The debts of a previous generation are not the sins of the next. If resentment were passed down endlessly, the world would never know peace. The death of my biological father was not personal vengeance. Uncle supporting me was not personal favor. Mother, I want to be the virtuous ruler they envisioned, not someone who plunges the world into chaos because of old grudges, ***. I looked at his steady expression. We had succeeded, Xianwei and I had truly raised a wise emperor. When my son turned 15, Xianwei's illness caught up with him. In his final moment, he held on to the corner of my robe. He had long grown accustomed to the pain. The bone-deep torture that racked his body. Yet he still forced a smile at me. The emperor had already quietly acknowledged what lay between us. Standing outside the hall with his guards, saying nothing. Yunning, don't cry. It doesn't hurt. He brushed away the tear at the corner of my eye, trying to appear relaxed. I forced a trembling smile. If it doesn't hurt, then why are you still holding on to my robe? He laughed softly. Habit. I wanted to tease him again, anything to ease his pain. But suddenly his breath quickened. Alarmed, I held his hand. He tightened his grip, his voice broken. Yunning, what you said about the past life, was it true? 10 years ago, when we finally acknowledged our feelings. He had shared a cup of wedding wine with me, speaking with gentle eyes. We may have no official title, we may not share a grave in death. But in this life, I will never betray you. Hearing those words back then made me tremble uncontrollably. I told him everything. Every detail of our past life, without hiding a single fragment. He stared for a long time before saying, if there truly is a past life and this one, then even in that life, I would not have betrayed you. After that night, we never spoke of it again. We only looked forward. Only now did I realize, he had remembered every word. I nodded. All of it was true. He suddenly laughed. A bright, unrestrained laugh. A chill went through me. I gripped his hand tightly, shaking my head in panic. Xianwei, if there is another life, I don't want you to look for me. I would rather you live well on your own. Xianwei shook his head with a faint smile. If I don't look for you, how would I ever find you in this life? Yunning. I have no regrets. To live under the same quilt. To rest in the same grave. I will fulfill it. One breath later. I stepped out of the hall. Dawn had just broken. Yet the moon had not fully set. Two lights, existing in the same sky. But belonging to different worlds. That was us. Xianwei and I. Intertwined. Separated. Fated. But I had no regrets. The end.